I'll never forget the chill that seeped into my bones that night. Not just from the biting January cold, but from the icy stare of my mother-in-law as she watched my 8-year-old daughter, Olivia, shiver uncontrollably, her lips already turning blue. We were locked out on a 6th-floor balcony, and she just sat there, waiting. It was a brutal January evening, the kind where the air itself feels like daggers. 19 degrees, to be exact. And there we were, my sweet Olivia and I, trapped on the 6th-floor balcony of my mother-in-law's apartment. The door, of course, was locked tight from the inside. Olivia was pressed against me, shaking violently. It wasn't just the cold, though that was already unbearable. It was sheer, gut-wrenching fear. She had on a thin sweater, no coat. We'd been inside, just minutes before, enjoying what we thought was dinner. Through the glass door, I could see Carol, my mother-in-law, perched on her couch, arms crossed, eyes fixed on us. A cold, unwavering gaze. She was just watching, waiting. "Mom, I'm so cold," Olivia whispered, her voice barely a breath. Her little lips were starting to take on a terrifying bluish tint. My heart shattered. "I know, baby," I choked out, pulling her closer, trying to shield her from the wind with my own body. "I know." I pounded on that glass door again, a desperate, futile thump. "Carol, this isn't funny. For God's sake, let us in." She didn't budge, not an inch, just sat there, a silent, menacing statue. How did we get here? How did a seemingly normal family dinner turn into a nightmare straight out of a horror movie? It started innocently enough. We'd come to Carol's place for dinner. My husband, David, was working late, so it was just us girls. A quick visit or so, I thought. Olivia had been so excited. She used to adore spending time with her grandma. Used to. Dinner itself began normally. Carol had made pasta. We talked about school, about Olivia's upcoming dance recital. Everything felt fine. Deceptively fine. Then it happened. Olivia, being an 8-year-old, reached across the table for the salt shaker, without asking.
Such a small thing, right?
A kid thing. But I saw Carol's face harden. Her entire demeanor shifted in an instant. "Olivia," she said, her voice like a whip crack, "we ask before we reach. That's disrespectful." "Sorry, Grandma," Olivia stammered, snatching her hand back as if burned. You were just being rude." Carol cut her off, her eyes blazing. "Your mother clearly doesn't teach you manners, does she?" My jaw clenched so tight, I thought it might crack. The audacity. I tried to interject, to defend my daughter, to defend myself. She said, "Sorry, Carol." Carol scoffed. "It's fine." "It's not fine," she declared. "Children need to be taught respect. And if you won't do it, I will." The rest of dinner was an icy silence. Olivia, usually so chatty, ate in complete quiet, shrinking in her seat. The air was thick with unspoken anger. When we finished, Carol, in a voice that left no room for argument, told Olivia to help clear the table. Olivia, eager to please and clearly wanting to escape the tension, stood up, grabbed her plate. As she started towards the kitchen, she stumbled. Not dramatically, just a little trip over the leg of a chair. The plate didn't even break. It just clattered loudly, spilling a little spaghetti on the floor. Olivia froze, her eyes wide with terror. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." Before she could even finish, Carol was on her feet. "Get out," she barked. My head snapped up. "What?" I asked, my voice laced with disbelief. "I said, get out," she repeated, louder, her eyes like chips of ice. "Both of you, go stand on the balcony." My blood ran cold. "Carol, it's January. It's absolutely freezing out there," I pleaded, my voice rising. "Then you should have taught her to be more careful," she retorted, utterly unmoved. "Carol, she's 8. She tripped. It was an accident," I insisted, desperation creeping into my voice. "Everything is always an accident with her," Carol sneered. "She needs to learn that actions have consequences. Not like this," I screamed. "Yes," Carol said, her voice chillingly calm. "Like this. Go, now." Olivia was sobbing openly now, her tiny body racked with fear. "I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. Go," Carol roared, her face contorted with rage this time. I grabbed Olivia's hand. "We're leaving," I declared, trying to project a strength I didn't feel. "Come on, sweetheart." I started towards the front door, my only thought escape, but Carol was faster. She moved like lightning, blocking the door. "You're not leaving until you learn," she snarled. "Get out of the way, Carol," I demanded, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and panic. "No," she said, a wicked glint in her eye. "You came here for dinner. You made a mess. You'll stay until I say you can go." And then she grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. She yanked me towards the balcony door. Olivia was clinging to me, her cries turning into gasps. Carol tore the door open and, with a horrifying shove, pushed both of us outside. The cold hit us instantly, a physical blow, like a solid wall of ice. Olivia gasped, a tiny, terrified sound. I whirled around, intending to force my way back in, but it was too late. Carol slammed the door shut. The lock clicked, a sound that will forever haunt my nightmares. "Carol," I screamed, my voice raw. "Let us in." She just walked away from the door, without a glance, and sat back on her couch, just like before, watching, waiting. I banged, again and again. "This isn't okay. We're freezing." She didn't react. She didn't even flinch. It was like we weren't even there. I pulled Olivia even tighter against me, trying to block the cruel wind, feeling utterly helpless. She was shaking so hard I thought her teeth might chatter right out of her head. "Mom, I'm scared," she whimpered, burying her face in my shoulder. My heart broke. "I know, baby," I whispered back, my voice thick with tears. "But I'm going to fix this. I promise you, I'm going to fix this." My hand fumbled for my phone. David. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. My mind raced. What now? There was only one option. I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency?" a calm voice asked. "My mother-in-law locked me and my 8-year-old daughter on her balcony," I stammered, trying to control my shaking voice. "It's 19 degrees out here. We've been out here for at least 10 minutes, and she won't let us in." The dispatcher, bless her, was incredible. "What's the address?" I rattled it off. "Officers are on the way, ma'am. Stay on the line." 5 minutes felt like an eternity, but then I heard them, the distant wail of sirens, growing closer, flashing lights painting the buildings below. Then, the blessed sound of footsteps inside the apartment, voices, and finally, the balcony door swung open. A police officer stood there, his face concerned. "Are you all right?" he asked. I just nodded, speechless, scooping Olivia up into my arms. I carried her inside, into the apartment that suddenly felt so warm it almost hurt. Olivia was still crying, still shaking, but now it was a different kind of release. The officer immediately wrapped a thick blanket around Olivia. She huddled into it, still trembling. Carol, meanwhile, was standing calmly in the corner, another officer talking to her. She was explaining, matter-of-factly, that they needed to learn discipline. She was teaching them respect by locking us on a balcony in sub-freezing weather. I could barely believe my ears. "Children need consequences," she stated, as if she were a wise sage offering profound life lessons. The officer's response was chillingly direct. "Ma'am, that's abuse." Carol's face hardened. "I would never abuse anyone. I was teaching." The officer exchanged a look with his partner, a silent communication passing between them. Then he turned back to Carol. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us." "For what?" she demanded, her voice rising. "For questioning," the officer said. "We need to talk about tonight and about some other things. If you're still reeling from that, trust me, so was I. And if you want to hear more stories that will absolutely shock you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You won't believe what happened next." For a split second, a flicker of pure fear crossed Carol's face. It was so brief, I almost missed it. Then it was gone, replaced by seething anger. "I want my lawyer," she declared. "You can call them from the station," the officer said calmly. They put her in handcuffs. Handcuffs. My mother-in-law, being led away like a criminal. As they walked her out, I collapsed onto the couch, Olivia still clutched in my arms, wrapped in blankets. Another officer stayed with us, asking questions, taking notes, trying to piece together the madness. Then he said something that sent a literal shiver down my spine, colder than anything I'd felt on that balcony. "Ma'am, we've been looking for your mother-in-law for 3 months." My breath hitched. "What?" I managed to choke out. "She was under investigation," he continued, his voice grim, "for the death of a child. Different county. 2 years ago. We just connected her to this address last week." My world tilted. I couldn't breathe. "A child?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Her neighbor's son," the officer explained. 5 years old. She was babysitting him. He died of hypothermia. She claimed he wandered outside, and she didn't notice. The investigation was inconclusive until we found another report from a previous address. Same pattern. Child locked outside as punishment. I looked down at Olivia. She was staring at the floor, perfectly still. Her grandmother had done this before. She locked another child outside. I whispered, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "We believe so," the officer confirmed, his gaze serious. "And tonight confirms it. She has a pattern." That night, I couldn't bring myself to go home. I took Olivia to a hotel, held her close, and finally called David. I told him everything, every horrifying detail, and, predictably, he didn't believe me at first. He defended his mother, said I was overreacting. My blood ran cold with a new kind of fury. "She locked her daughter on a balcony in January, David," I said, my voice dangerously low. "And she's being investigated for a child's death." That's not overreacting. David went silent on the other end of the line. "What child?" he finally asked, his voice small. "I'll send you the officer's information," I told him. "Ask him yourself." And then I hung up. 2 days later, David called back. He'd spoken to the police. He'd seen the reports. He was quiet, shaken to his core. "I didn't know," he said, his voice broken. "I know," I replied, my voice softer now. "But now you do." "What do we do?" he asked, sounding lost. "I'm keeping Olivia away from her," I stated, without an ounce of doubt. "She's my mother," he protested weakly. "And she almost killed your daughter," I countered, my voice firm. A long silence stretched between us. Then, "Okay," he said, finally, "okay." 3 weeks later, Carol was formally charged, child endangerment, reckless conduct, and that historical case reopened. They found more witnesses, people who suddenly remembered things they hadn't thought were important at the time. Patterns of behavior. The trial lasted 4 months. I testified, my voice shaking but resolute, telling them about that terrifying night on the balcony, about Carol sitting there, watching us freeze, about Olivia's blue lips and shaking hands. Carol's lawyer tried to spin it as discipline, as tough love. But the prosecutor, he showed them photos of Olivia's fingers, still bruised from the frostbite. He showed them the thermometer reading from that night, 19 degrees. The jury deliberated for a mere 3 hours. Guilty. 6 years in prison. David and we stayed together, but barely. The damage was deep. He defended his mother, made excuses. Even after everything, a part of him, I think, still wanted to believe she'd meant well. We separated a year later and divorced 6 months after that. It was amicable as much as these things can be. He sees Olivia every other weekend, but his mother's name is never spoken. That chapter is closed, sealed shut. Olivia is 10 now. She's in therapy, working through what happened. She still doesn't like the cold. She won't stand near balconies. She flinches when people raise their voices. But she's healing. Slowly, bravely. Her therapist says she's resilient, that she'll be okay. And I believe her because my daughter is strong. So much stronger than I ever knew. Just last week, she asked me about that night. "Mom, why did Grandma do that?" I thought carefully about how to answer such a profound question. "Because she was sick, baby," I told her. "Not like a cold. Sick in her mind. She thought hurting people was helping them." Olivia frowned, her brow furrowed with thought. "That's not helping," she stated, a quiet wisdom in her voice. "No," I agreed, tears stinging my eyes. "No, it's not." She nodded. "I'm glad you called the police." "Me too, baby," I said, pulling her into a hug. "Me too." Carol writes letters from prison. David forwards them sometimes, begging, asking if I'll let Olivia visit, if I'll bring her to see her grandmother, if we can forgive. I don't respond. There's nothing left to say. You don't forgive someone who locked your child on a freezing balcony. You don't let them back in. You protect what matters. And what matters is Olivia. Safe, warm, and never, ever afraid that love comes with punishment. So tell me, honestly, in my place, would you have given Carol another chance? Or did I do the right thing by protecting my daughter at all costs? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button for echoing heart tales. I'll see you in the next one.